Hey guys, it's 2020! Well, sort of. It's 2020 when you're watching this video. It's actually still 2019 while I'm recording this video. But I said that this one was going to go up after New Year's, so I hope you had a great New Year's celebration. Granted, I haven't had mine yet, but I'll be at the... Well, I will have been. Great time. It's going to get weird, but the Dice Portsmouth Cafe, I'm doing a social table there where I'm basically going to be there for the whole evening, just teaching people new games and, just teaching new people the hobby. So I look forward to that. That'll be a good New Year's plan for me. Of course, by now, it's already happened, and I probably enjoyed it. But, what is the point of this video? Well, I want to talk about Season 4. So, for those of you who have not even heard of this channel, then basically I do YouTube reviews and I do reviews of board games, I do top 10 lists, I occasionally also do vlog episodes where I just talk about various discussion topics or conventions. I occasionally, even more rarely, do solo playthrough videos, whether it's of an app game or occasionally tabletop, but sadly my room setup and equipment setup doesn't allow me to do those as frequently as I would like, particularly in busy periods. And there's just generally a lot of stuff that I do. And even on the review front, I also do anthologies, which are kind of like group game reviews. So it's like, oh, I've got so many to do, or they're all from the same publisher, or they're all expansions and filler games. I will do an anthology so that I can catch up with myself. That's essentially the gist of this channel. I've been doing it for over 6 years now, about 6.5 years, give or take. So when I started the blog, I was doing written reviews, more on that later, but it slowly migrated onto YouTube, and since then the subscriber count has been growing and growing and growing. More people have started watching the shows. The view count has gone up, sort of. It's one of those things where, I am not like a famous blogger or anything like that in any way, shape or form. I mean, you've got the Dice Tower, you've got No Pun Included, you've got Rado, you've got all these other people who are far more famous in this industry when it comes to reviews than I am. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about games. Granted, it has grown in popularity, but I'm a long way, a huge long way to being anything that's recognizable. But, I'm trying different things, I'm trying different camera setups, I experimented with this wide angle view last year, as well as my sort of bokeh effect view for doing reviews. I've acquired other lights, I've tried different actual videos, like I say, the solo playthroughs was a recent thing, and I've just tried to generally improve the channel and just get it to a more professional standard. I've even managed to acquire like a rebranding of my logo in the last few months, and get some polo shirts that I can wear to events so it's a bit more recognizable. And I even did a project recently to do even more rebranding in the way of seals, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So now that I've kind of introduced myself, here are some thoughts on the channel that I've had as I've gone on and what I want to do in the future. So firstly, the videos that I do, the reviews, the top 10s, the solo playthroughs and that. I'm not like a world famous blogger or anything like that. I mean, there are people out there who do this and get like tens of thousands of views on a regular basis, and they're easily the ones that you've heard of. I'm just a guy who does this as a passion hobby. My full-time job is a chartered tax accountant. That pays my bills, that's my career. This is just something I do on the side because I live alone and, have this equipment and I love games, so it's easier for me to fit this time in, even though it's a lot of effort to record, to edit, to upload, to keep in contact with people on social media. It's a lot of effort as a side hobby to my job. I'd love to be doing this full time, but it will not pay the bills. There is no way I could earn anywhere close to the amount of money I do in my full-time job by doing game-related board game stuff, which is a shame. It would be my dream job, but sadly that's just the way it is in a capitalistic world. But the videos that I'm doing, the reviews, the top 10s, the solo playthroughs, I've got to think about these ones a bit because firstly, top 10 lists. They're my most favorite to do, but they're also my most time-intensive one to do. It takes a lot of effort to edit those ones, but they get the views. Tens of thousands of views can end up on those top 10 videos, and they are my favorite to do, so I'm going to keep doing those, and I'm going to hopefully do more of them as well. I want to do a lot of these top 10 videos. Review videos, I'm obviously going to keep on doing them, because otherwise I wouldn't really have a channel, but I need to be a bit more careful about which games I pick to review, because some of these games are so unheard of that the effort it takes to get the video out doesn't really justify the the game in the first place. Like, there are some reviews I look at last year and they have barely broken a few hundred views in a colossal amount of time, which means that the game is not that popular or people aren't that interested in it. And so you have to think, how many hours did I spend doing that video in editing and recording and uploading? Could I have just maybe skipped that video and just given myself more time, maybe done a top 10 video instead? And the other problem with the reviews as well is that the anthologies I do to keep myself on track, but I don't want to do anthologies for a mixture of proper published games, because then, the publishers out there can't link to the video and say, check out this review of my game here, because they've got to also say it's also got about 5 other games in there. So I tend to do anthologies for expansions and filler games, that kind of thing. And of course, that only happens every now and again. So I have to then do a singular video for every review. That takes time, particularly at Essen. Yes, last year's Essen was a bit of a slog, have to admit. It got to the point where it was a bit like a busman's holiday. I was doing something I enjoy, but it felt a lot like work as well, because there was just so many games that got released at Essen. I ended up with a bucket load of review copies and I had to try and get them all out before Christmas. It wasn't possible. Some have had to wait until January to get reviewed, and it's just a lot of effort to get that many games done. So again, linking back to my previous point, I need to be careful about which games I even review, but I might have to consider some more anthologies in the Essen period just because there's so many Essen games to do. Or maybe I'll just have to accept that I can't get them all reviewed before Christmas, make that clear to the publisher, and just say, I'll get it reviewed when I can. I mean, Q1 of the year is always like bone dry for any decent game releases for the most part, so the games that are at Essen that haven't been reviewed just trail on into the Q1 and then they'll get reviewed eventually. But then you've got the problem of, well, if I wait too long, then the buzz has gone down. Nobody cares about the game anymore, because believe me, it's cult of the new these days. But I think that's just kind of the way it has to be. There's just too many games to review for one person, and so I have to consider that. However, I do have one idea that I am thinking about doing, and I think I probably will put this into motion, because some of those games where I feel that they don't justify a video should still get a review. They shouldn't just be completely ignored. But here's one thing I am thinking of doing, and that's going back to written reviews. So, not like shutting down YouTube. No, don't worry. It's like, calm down. But the idea is that I used to do written reviews. They don't get anywhere near the amount of views and activity online or SEO, that kind of thing. They certainly don't generate a lot of ad income either to keep the channel funded. But they allow me to get a review out in quick time, because it doesn't take me long at all to type out a review. Once I get typing, I can't stop. So what I'm thinking of doing is that I will do written reviews for those smaller, less known games, the more sort of obscure ones. So the ones where I feel like they could only get like a couple hundred views, they're not going to get a ton of, buzz or anything like that. They're the ones that I'll do written reviews for, because then the content is out there. But it means that I haven't spent hours and hours doing a video and editing and all that, but there's still the review. And that can also keep my blogger site a little bit more activity, which then means I'll be able to reserve the YouTube channel for the games that really need that video review, but also more top 10 content. Like I say, I want to do more of those. The solo playthroughs are kind of a more hit and miss thing though, because I don't have a suitable equipment set up to do live streaming or really good solo playthroughs. I wish I had a camera bolted out of my ceiling to do overhead views. I just don't. The best I have is this wide angle lens, which can be at an angle, not above, but at an angle. And even then, I need all the lights to be there, so it's not super dark. It's not easy for me to do a solo playthrough thing, especially when some of them require me to hold like a stabilizer gimbal in my hand with my mobile phone to do the "this is what I'm doing" kind of Rado style. And I liked doing the mix, but it's a lot of effort. I've got to now sync up 2 videos and 2 sets of audio. And even then, it's not 100% clear what I'm doing on the board. Some people have just got the setups. Now, that's not to say I want to stop doing solo playthroughs. I'm certainly going to do app ones. I like doing the app ones. But I need to find a way to do a convenient setup for solo playthroughs that isn't like an absolute nightmare to get on the table and do. And that's just going to require some experimentation. Maybe I need to grab 1 or 2 pieces of equipment down. I'll have to think of something. But I will try to do more solo playthroughs, certainly in the first half of the year. But I think you're just going to have to accept that maybe my solo playthroughs are a bit more of a seasonal thing. When it's a quieter period for games, then I can do solo playthroughs and top 10s aplenty. But when it's busy periods like Gen Con and Essen and stuff like that, then they kind of just have to take a backseat and make way for video reviews. The Patreon campaign I have running, I need it, and I'm certainly grateful to anybody who has signed up to my Patreon and is paying me even just a single $1 a month, like pittance money, because it all goes to funding this channel. It either gets review copies that I need to grab, but most of the point it goes into funding the overheads, like hosting the podcast, hosting, like YouTube Premium, having the light equipment, the camera, the microphones, all that is all being done with Patreon money. And even like the rebranding recently had to be paid out of Patreon money, to get this stuff done. And it earns enough to pay the overheads and a little bit on top, but a lot of my own money goes into this channel as well. And I would love to be able to find a way to boost the Patreon a lot. Of course, this means I'm going to need a little bit of help from those who are bigger Patreon experts, because I set some goals. Granted, not a lot of them were realistic ones, but I set some, but it's struggling to get any momentum. And honestly, if you can support this channel via Patreon, I would be immensely grateful for it. And even if you just put in $1 a month, a single dollar. If 1,000 people who watch this channel put in $1 a month, that's $1,000 a month. The amount of upgrades I could do to the camera and lighting and microphone equipment with that kind of monthly income is insane. But you barely notice $1 coming out of your account a month. $1 is nothing. What's that, 60, 70 pence in UK money? It's like a pittance. But I would rather 1,000 people put in $1 than 10 people put in $100. Because obviously that's not manageable for a lot of people. But some people do put in $2, $5 a month onto the Patreon, and I'm supremely grateful for that. You are wonderful people. But I need to find a way to boost the Patreon up in order to keep this channel funded. And I don't want to do Kickstarter because I just don't think I would get anything on Kickstarter. They would nick most of the income. I don't think anybody would care about subscribing to a Kickstarter, and it's a lot of effort to do one. Look at things like No Pun Included and stuff like that. They do Kickstarters, and even they don't fully get to their reaching high goals. If they can't do it, what chance do I have? So Patreon's the best way that I can work, but I need to find a way to make it more, shall we say, what's the incentive? So firstly, I could release videos on Patreon earlier than they are on YouTube. That means I need to get my timetable sorted with when I do videos, but that is a possibility, early video content. Paul Grogan does that on his feed and it works pretty well. But I also need to find other things to do. I said people could submit questions like for Q&As, and you still can, but I haven't really had any questions submitted to me, so that's why there haven't been any Q&A segments. But then there's another tier where I've said, right, I will email you with like the top 10 lists I'm doing. You can vote on which top 10 lists I'm doing first, and then you can give your choice for which one I should put as a Patreon choice, and the one that gets the most responses gets talked about. There's stuff like that, but I feel that maybe I need to expand the Patreon campaign a little bit and put in more incentives. But of course, that means I need to talk to some Patreon experts. So if you've got any ideas about that sort of thing, put them in the comments. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the matter. But it's still there. It's still in the background. If you can subscribe to it, even just for $1 a month, it'd be greatly appreciated. But, I'm certainly going to try and find a way to work on it and make it a bit more of an interesting Patreon page. So with that said, I wanted to make this channel more professional and, say, right, publishers, yes, I know I'm only small fry, but my seal, I can put something on your box to say I've reviewed it and given it a good review, that kind of thing. So recently, as well as the rebranding that I did for a more clearer, simplistic logo, I recently put in the same design studio to design me some seals, award seals. The Dice Tower have the Seal of Excellence and the Seal of Approval, and I wanted to have something similar. Not outright copy them, but I wanted to have something that a publisher might put on the front of their game. And believe me, it's going to be a big dream moment when I see that happen, or if I see that happen. But what I have done is I have made seals. Ta-da! Yes, I finally have got the design sorted. I was on Twitter and Facebook a lot, trying to get people's opinions, what worked, what didn't, and this was the thought process. It needed to be simple, not too complicated. It needed to reflect the logo in some way, like some aspect of this had to be on the seal to make it recognizable. It shouldn't be too complicated, it shouldn't have information that is not able to be intuitively gauged. You can tell what it is instantly. It should be a bold color scheme and it should be easy to replicate in videos and for publishers. So I went through a few iterations and I did consider the idea of having a complexity rating on my seals as well. So you would have 1, 2 or 3 cogs to say this is a simple, midweight or heavy game. That was kind of voted out by myself eventually, but by other people because it is not intuitive. If I just put 3 cogs on a seal, what does that tell a casual gamer? Nothing. They don't know unless I tell them that's what the 3 cogs is. So I've kept them, but they're on a separate ribbon banner, as you can see here. And what this will mean is that if a publisher wants to put it on their game, they can. But ideally, I will simply use them in written reviews and video reviews as a bit on the end in my verdict to say, okay, here's the complexity rating I've given it. It'll just be a visual aid. Now, what the seal is that there are 2 seals in particular. We have a seal of endorsement and a seal of distinction. This is kind of equivalent to the Dice Tower seal of approval and seal of excellence. And like I say, I'm trying to come up with my own seals, but you have to base your ideas on something that works. It's not like you can be truly innovative. But the seal of endorsement is one that I give to games that I think are generally pretty good. I'm not going to assign specific ratings, but if you want to give a numerical rating to a seal of endorsement game, we're talking ratings 7 and 8. Around that area. 6 and below probably won't get a seal of endorsement, but it kind of depends on the game itself. Whereas the seal of distinction is my 9s and 10s. These are the ones that I think are phenomenal games, like fantastic, shout home for the mountains, contenders for top 10 lists, that kind of thing, and they will get a seal of distinction. These will be represented on written reviews. They will be a visual aid. Sorry, my throat is going. A visual aid on video reviews. But this will be the thing that publishers, if you are willing to put this on your box when you print the game, just ask me for a copy of the seal. I can give it to you in JPEG or PNG format. And by all means, stick it on your box. You will make my dreams come true. But, that's your discretion. But yep, they're going to be on the videos now. And hopefully they just give it a bit more of a professional feel. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the length of videos. Now, this one I've put on the community as a poll and I've had many viewpoints about it. And yeah, it's a temperamental one because I tried to keep them short, but I'm failing at it. There's a lot to talk about with a lot of games and I do not script my reviews. I don't like speaking from a script. It feels robotic. I like to just talk and let my passion do the talking. But this does have a down impact on the length of a video because a review might take, ideally, between 10 to 15 minutes. And I think that's how long a review should take. But a lot of my reviews are going beyond 20 minutes. Some up to 25 plus. As much as some people have said they like the more informative reviews on that length, it's a minority. And I have to admit, I feel that that's a bit long. Now, sometimes the game has so much to talk about that it's inevitable that you're going to go up to the 20-minute mark, but there are some games I review where I'm like, did that really need to be 20 minutes long? Could that not have been cut in half or at least cut down to below 15? And as I watch some other people do reviews, like Z Garcia, for example, he does a pretty condensed review in a decent time frame, and he does it in less time than I do. So there has to be some way I can tone the length down, and I am going to work on this. So top 10 lists I'm just going to keep as long as they are. I mean, I talk about 10 games, I like long top 10 lists. I will try to make the effort to put timestamps in the description though, so that you can actually see where the games are in case you think the videos are too long. But, I'd rather do that than have people put the top 10 list in the comments on Facebook and that, because I find that's just a bit cheesy. I mean, come on, I put the effort in to do the video, you can at least watch the video. But I'll put timestamps in and hopefully that will help. But with a review video, I am going to try very hard to keep the maximum review length for any game, no matter how big it is, to 15 minutes or less. Now, I'm probably not going to do many reviews in less than 10 minutes. I think that's kind of impossible. I know some people are out there doing 3-minute reviews and 5-minute reviews and stuff like that, but they just seem too much like infomercials. You know, this isn't... I feel like it's too much like an advert. You can't get enough information about how a game makes you feel from a passion point of view in 3 to 5 minutes. It just doesn't happen. You know, you can list out all the information about a game, what its mechanics are, what its player count is, what length it is to play. Yes, you can do that in a few minutes, but I can't talk about my feelings in 3 minutes. It just doesn't happen. So 10 to 15 minutes I'm going to aim for, and the only way I'm going to be able to keep to this 15-minute plan is I'm going to have to semi-script my reviews. Now, don't worry, when I say semi-script, I just mean that I'm going to have a much more laid out plan of, right, I need to talk about these aspects specifically in this particular order, and I will try to keep each aspect to a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. I'll even time myself on my phone as I'm doing the review. But I'm not going to write out my speech. No. That's still going to be all me. That's still going to be on the fly and ad-libbed. But I feel that maybe just having a bit more of a structure plan as to what my review is going to be, rather than just simply switching the camera on and going, yay, let's talk, will at least help me to keep the length down a bit. And I think 15 minutes is not too long for a review. 10 minutes is perfectly fine. You know, 10 to 15, if I can just keep it in that bracket, you know, not including the intro music and the outro music. But if I can keep it to that time frame, I think more people will be happy than not. And certainly it might also help with my editing process, because the shorter the video, the less time it takes to edit. So, you know, there's that sort of thing. The format of the lenses. Now, this is another one that's come to some contention in the past, and I don't entirely know which route to go down. I mean, I did a poll to see whether you prefer this wide-angle lens or the bokeh effect where the camera's on the other end of the table and it's a bit more professional looking. But there's upsides and downsides to both setups, and when I asked people to vote on it, it was like almost like a Brexit level differential between this one and this one. So there's no clear way to do this. Now, with the wide angle, you can see stuff more clearly. You can see all these games behind me. You can see me. You can see whatever I'm holding in my hand clearly. But there's a downside. Firstly, the lighting is a lot harder to do with a wide angle lens because the aperture in the camera is quite high. So you get dark areas, as you can see, and post editing can only improve it so much. But on the positive side, the microphone, the shotgun mic, is literally there. It is literally in my face, so the audio is a lot clearer. But of course, wide angle has the slight distortion effect with my arms and that. Not something I'm that worried about, and I don't think most people are, but it's a factor to consider. But I do like doing my top 10s in the wide angle format, and they're going to continue in that way. But I was umming and ahhing whether I should do wide angle fully, but I can't bring myself yet to say, right, I'm going to do wide angle for every video, because the bokeh effect has the blurry element, and yes, I have, you know, hand on heart, mucked up occasionally with the focus and got it wrong. But I feel like I'm on top of it now. And the advantage with that setup is that the lighting is so much easier to do because the aperture on those that particular lens is much lower. So light is let in from everywhere. I don't have to wait for the perfect lighting setup. And I've already got 4 lights here pointing at me. I can only have so many lights sticking in my general direction. So, you know, there's advantages for that. The downside, though, of that one is, other than making sure the focus is entirely correct, there's only so much space at the other end of that table to put the camera. So I can only get so much in view. And secondly, the shotgun mic is therefore at the other end of the room, and people have commented occasionally that there is a little bit of an echo effect, and I have to put a lot more boost gain on post-editing in order to get the audio to sound right, whereas here, the audio is a lot more clearer. So what solution do I have to that? Well, one, I could go wide angle for all my reviews, but I don't think people are going to be as keen on that, although let me know in the comments what you think. But the alternative is that I have to find an alternative means of audio recording. Maybe I have to look at a lavalier mic and get one to pin onto my polo shirt for those reviews, so that the audio is coming directly from here rather than, you know, what must be 6 feet? No, not 6 feet, can't be. Well, 6-7 feet across the room where the shotgun mic is, and the shotgun mic should ideally be right next to you. It shouldn't be 6-7 feet away. So you know, I've got to sort of work on that. I'd be interested to hear what your views on that are, but nothing's going to change immediately. It's still same as you've been seeing it, but this is something that's kind of on my mind and I need to think about it. So that's all I can really say for the channel. I mean, you'll see me at lots of conventions this year, you know, HandyCon, AirCon, GridCon, UK Games Expo, Essen, PortalCon. I mentioned HandyCon, I think already. You know, lots of other conventions. Haven't found the time to be able to, haven't found the money to be able to go to a US convention yet. I would love to come to a US convention, but the flight to get over there from the UK, the time I got to take off work, the price of the flight, the price of the hotel, it's just a bit prohibitive, really. And I'd like to find a way. And certainly I'll be up to listening to publishers who want help on their booths or Dice Tower and stuff like that. But for now, it's just something that's a little bit hard for me to do. But in the future, if I can find a way to do it, I would love to attend a US convention. Something like Dice Tower West or East, probably East. Maybe PAX Unplugged, probably, well, I think probably more Dice Tower East, to be honest, or Dice Tower Cruise, something like that. But at the moment, it's just a lot of money that I can't afford at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot of plans for this channel, as you've heard, a lot of conventions to visit. 2020, let's hope it's a good year for gaming. Let's hope it's a good year for the channel, you know, get to that 10,000 subscriber count, you know, as a next milestone. And just, you know, just generally thanks, guys. You know, if you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy the content I put out. If you've been with the channel for years, then I thank you for supporting it. I thank you for watching it. I thank you for your comments, your constructive criticism, your positive comments. They give me a lot more confidence in doing this channel and keeping it going even through the tough times, which any reviewer will tell you. There's a lot of tough times, you know, a lot of burnout moments, a lot of like, what's the point? Why am I doing this? You know, your support means everything. This channel would not be here without you. So before my throat gives out entirely and the battery runs out in the camera, I'm going to call it there. So time to sign off. I hope to play some games with you at some neighboring conventions. I hope to talk with you on social media. Thank you for the support that you have given me. This channel would not be here without you guys to keep me going. So take care, I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video, and remember, as always, it's only a game. Hope you had a fantastic new year, and here's to 2020.